Lesson 4.3. Our objective is to find the slope of a line. A key term for this section is slope. Slope is the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. The slope is used to describe the steepness of a line. The slope is the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change between any 2 points. Another way of saying vertical change to horizontal change is to say rise over run. The slope is the rise over run between any 2 points. If you look at the diagram that I have here, I have 2 points. If I wanted to know the steepness or the slope of this line, what I would do from one point to the next point, I want to know how many units do I move up. That would be considered my rise. Over how many units do I move over to get to that next point? When I'm moving over, that would be considered my run. So once again, the slope from one point to the next point is your rise over run. There are some things that we can tell about the slope of a line just by looking at the line. We can determine if it has a positive slope, negative slope, undefined slope, or if the slope is zero just by simply looking at it. If you look at the diagrams that I have here, if I want to know the slope of this line, if it's negative or positive, I'm looking at the line as it rises from left to right. I'm looking from left to right. From left to right, the line goes up. So if it's moving up from left to right, that means that it's a positive slope. Okay? It's a positive slope. If you look at the next one, once again, I'm going from left to right. I start at the left and I move to right, and it's going down, down, down. It's falling down. So this would be a negative slope. On the next one, left to right, it doesn't matter. This is just a horizontal line. Let me fix that. That's a little too messy. Let me move it up a bit as well. And a horizontal line, you have a run. I can move over, but you to get from one point to the next, but you don't have a rise. You never move up. So the slope of this line would be zero. If it's a horizontal line, the slope is zero. On the last one, you see clearly this is just a vertical line. If it's a vertical line, well, you have a run from one point to the next. You move up, however, you don't have excuse me, you have a rise. From one point to the next, you do move up. You move up, however, you don't have a run from one point to the next point. You never move over. So there's no run. So that means that the slope of a vertical line is undefined. So to recap, if the line rises from left to right, it has a positive slope. If it falls from left to right, it has a negative slope. If it's a horizontal line, the slope is zero. And if it's a vertical line, the slope is undefined. For example 1, we're going to use the rise and run to determine the slope of the line. So we have two examples here. If you look at the first one, the first thing I want to determine is if the slope of the line, is it negative, positive, is it undefined, or is it zero? Well, when I look at it, as the line goes from left to right, the line goes up. So I know that it's a positive slope. So whatever answer I come up with, I know that it's going to be positive. So now I need to calculate my rise and my run. And the way you do it, you have to pick yourself two good points. And the 2 points that I'm going to pick, I have a point right here at -3, -1. Then I have another good point here at 0, 1. You always want to pick a point that goes straight through the grid. So for example, I don't want to pick a point that's here because it's not going through the grid and it's not very easy for me to determine what that point is, okay? So now I have my two good points and I want to know, well, what's the rise and the run to get from one point to the next one. So if I'm starting here at this first point, I'm going to move up to get to this next point. I'm going to move up 1, 2 units. So that's my rise. Moving up is my rise. So that's 2. So now my run, to move on, I'm going to move over 1, 2, 3 units. And that's going to put me right at that next point. So my run was 3. So once again, from this first point, what I did, I moved up 1, 2 units. That's my rise. And then for my run, I moved over 1, 2, 3 units. And it put me at the next spot. So now I know that it's positive because as I go from left to right, the line moves up. So I know it's a positive slope. So now when I put it together, rise over run, the slope of this line is just 2 over 3. Let's take a look at the next one. Now once again, I need my rise and run. So first thing I need to do is to pick myself two good points. Remember, you want to pick something that's going straight through the grid, that's intersecting the two grids. So I don't want to pick anything like that because I can't tell what that, it's too difficult for me to tell what that point is. Okay. So I think one point that I'll pick a point here, and this is 4 and -4. And then this looks like a good point. I have 0, -3. Okay. So looking at the line, as the line goes from left to right, it's going down, down, down. So I know that it's a negative slope. It's a negative slope. So now I'm ready to count the rise and run. So to get from one point to the next, I'm starting here. I'll move up 1 unit. So that means that my rise is 1. And then from here, I'm going to move over 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So my run is 4. So when I put it together as rise over run, my slope for this particular line is going to be a negative, don't forget the negative, 1 over 4. That's a fairly simple process. Okay, we've gone over how to determine the graph of a line by using the rise over run by looking at the graph. Now we want to do it algebraically when we're given 2 points. For any 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2 on a line, the slope of the line is the vertical change over the horizontal change. The vertical change is going to be y2 minus y1, and your horizontal change will be x2 minus x1. Well, look at your look at your next example. This isn't your first example. This is your second example. We're going to find the slope of the line that passes through the given points. Well, now we have a formula. This is our formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's our vertical change over our horizontal change. So the first one that we have the first ordered pair that we have is 9, 19, and -9, 4. So we need to identify our x1, y1, x2, y2, and just substitute those numbers back into our formula. So for this first ordered pair, this is going to be my x1, this will be my y1, -9 will be my x2, and 4 will be my y2. Okay, so now I put this over here, I put these over here because sometimes students they get confused and they mix their numbers up in the formula. A lot of students will just want to subtract the first ordered pair over the second ordered pair, and that's wrong, okay? So my x1 value is 9. My y1 is 19. X2 is -9, and y2 is 4. Okay? So now I have my formula here. I have my formula, so I need to substitute these numbers into the formula. So I'm going to subtract the y's first. That will be my numerator. So it's going to be 4 minus 19. For my denominator, I'll subtract my x's. So this becomes negative 9 minus 9. Okay? Now when I simplify, for my numerator, 4 minus 19 gives me a negative 15. And for my denominator, negative 9 minus 9 gives me a negative 18. Okay? So we all know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So when I simplify this, it becomes 15 over 18. And that's my slope. Let's try the next one together. It's a fairly simple process. Excuse me. My x1 value is negative 12. My y1 value is negative 18. X2 is negative 14. And my y2 is negative 18. Okay, once again, the change in y's is going to be a numerator, so I want to subtract the y's. So this becomes negative 18 minus a negative 18. It's my numerator. My denominator becomes negative 14 minus negative 12. All I'm doing is I'm taking these numbers and I am arranging them in the order of the formula. That's all I'm doing. Okay? So this will give me a negative 18 minus a negative 18. Now remember, when you have these back-to-back negatives, they become positive. So this becomes negative 18 plus 18, which is 0. And my denominator, same thing. Negative 14 minus a negative 12 is really negative 14 plus 12, so that's a negative 2. Now, you know, anytime you have a 0 in the numerator, that means that the whole thing is 0. So in this case, my slope is just 0. And if my slope is 0, I know that means that the graph of the line is actually a horizontal line. Okay? Now what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video and try the next two problems on your own. And then once you're done, restart the video so that you can check your answers. It's a fairly simple process. If you've restarted your video, that means that you're ready to check your answers. So let's go ahead and get started and check those last two problems. Let's make sure that you're on the right track. Okay? All right, let's check it out. Okay, so let me write the formula here because you can't see it anymore. All right? So you have your 2 points. You have point 1, negative 14, and 8, negative 4. X1 is 15. Y1 is negative 14. X2 is 8. And Y2 is negative 4. So I'm going to take these numbers and arrange them in the appropriate order. I'm going to subtract my y's. So that becomes negative 4 minus a negative 14 over, now I'll subtract my x's, that will be my denominator, 8 minus 15. Okay, so for my numerator, negative 4 minus a negative 14, remember that back-to-back negatives turn to positive, so that's negative 4 plus 14, which will give you 10. For your denominator, you should have had 8 minus 15, which is negative 7. So that means that your slope for this one is going to be a negative 10 over 7. Okay? Excuse me. Then for the last one, we had the point 8, 3 for the first point, and the second point was 8, negative 4. So x1 is 8, y1 is 3, x2 is 8, and y2 is negative 4. So I'll take them and I'll arrange them in the appropriate order. I'll subtract my y's. That becomes negative 4 minus 3 over negative, excuse me, 8 minus 8, okay? Negative 4 minus 3 gives me a negative 7. 8 minus 8 is 0. Now, you know, anytime that you have 0 in your denominator, you know that means that is undefined. So in this case, our slope is undefined. Okay? So now if our slope is undefined, we know that it means that we also have a vertical line for this one. I hope that this video has been of some use to you. If it has, you can visit us at www.mathacademyonline.com for tutorial services or anything that you may need. Also, check out our YouTube website for more math videos. Thank you.